Ms. Susan, are you ready? Good afternoon, everybody. It's 1 o'clock. Today is Thursday, January 2nd, 2020, and it's 1 o'clock, and I'll call this meeting to order. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome everybody back from the holidays. I hope you're well rested and you had a wonderful time with your family and friends. And here we are, 2020. Welcome to my commissioners in this new year, our directors, our charter officers, all of our staff, and our citizens that are watching. I really look forward to the things we're going to accomplish in 2020. So with that, I have to do roll call. So those that are present are Commissioner Hanks, Vice Mayor Luke, myself, Mayor McDowell. Commissioner Carasone did send her regrets. She will not be attending today's meeting due to a family emergency. We have Commissioner Emmerich, City Attorney Slayton, Assistant City Attorney Branco. Oh, Assistant City Manager, I'm sorry. I gave you a promotion or a demotion, I'm not sure what that was. We also have our recording secretary, Ms. Hale, our administrative services specialist, Ms. Reed, our officer there to protect us, Chief in the back, and our wonderful staff, and welcome. At this time, if you would like to make public comment, please make sure you fill out a little card. Make sure you give it to the officer so that we can call your name when it's the appropriate time. And make sure your cell phones are turned to silent so we don't hear it ring. Otherwise, you'll have to share your conversation. And at this time, if Ms. Hale could please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. First meeting of 2020. Do I hear a approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
A motion on the floor to approve the agenda as presented by Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner Hanks. Anything to that? Nope. Let's go ahead and take the vote, please. I don't have anything. Hang on. I don't even see anything up here. It's mine. Sorry. I got nothing. Let's do a voice vote. Oh, there it is. 4-0. That passed. All righty. So at this time, we'll do public comment. Do we have any public comment cards, Vice Mayor?
Not for general.
Thank you very much. Assistant City Manager, moving on to new employees.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask the HR Director, Christine McDade, to come up to welcome the new employees.
Good afternoon. For the record, Christine McDade. I'm the Human Resources Director. It's my pleasure to welcome for the first group of 2020 some of our newest team members here at the city. So when I call your name, if you'll please stand where you are so we can welcome you. From the City Attorney's Office, I have Margaret Roberts, Assistant City Attorney. From the City Manager's Office, I have Eric Ryan, IT Manager. From NDS, we have Anthony Warren, our Building Official. Justin Bride, GIS Analyst. Maria Lopez, Planner. From Parks, we have Albert Gibbs, Part-Time Pool Technician. From Parks, we also have Isay Lopez, Rec Attendant. There's Margaret walking back here, Margaret Roberts, our Assistant City Attorney. From the Police Department, we have quite a group. We have Zahin Azad, Police Officer. We have Miguel Galvin Jr., Police Officer. We have Jasmine Gutierrez, Police Officer. Jeffrey Hart, Police Officer. Camila Rodriguez, Recruit Police Officer. And from Public Utilities, we have Jeffrey Foltz, Water Operator. From Public Works, we also have quite a group. We have Francis Nunez Lugo, an engineer. We have David Cornell, equipment operator. Richard Donnelly, equipment operator. James Matthewson, equipment operator. Donald Pemberton, equipment operator. Paul Baroni, solid waste equipment operator. And that's all I have. So on behalf of the city, welcome, and we wish you much success here. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to the city, everybody. Boy, that whip got cracked really hard. They're back to work already. Assistant City Manager, do we have anybody that pulled anything from the consent agenda?
No, ma'am.
Nothing has been pulled? Thank you very much. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent.
Move to approve consent agenda as presented.
Motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda as presented by Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner Emmerich. Anything to that?
No, ma'am.
All right, let's take the vote, please. And that passed 4-0. All right.
I will thank everybody who signed up to be on our boards. That was excellent.
Yeah, we have quite a few that signed up for the tree and beautification
Yep.
scenic highway, so that's pretty
And there
cool.
was another one too.
Exactly. All righty, City Manager, moving on to the IT presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce Eric Ryan, our new IT manager. He'll be providing the annual presentation for the IT division.
And just to let you know, sir, you have about 15 minutes, and then we'll have question and answer afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commission, Eric Ryan, IT Manager. Been asked to present a small deck regarding IT.
Is his mic on?
We will start with an overview of the organization. This year, we have 3 new positions coming on board: Infrastructure and Telecommunications Manager, a Service Desk 2 position, and an Applications System Administrator, which we look very forward to having on our team. Goals this year will certainly be to improve the citizens' ability to interact with the city. From a technology standpoint, a couple examples will be the GovQA and our GIS portal. Another goal is continuous improvement with our internal support services. An example there will be the Laserfish workflows and greater SharePoint integration for our teams. And finally, maintaining infrastructure uptime, ensuring employees can do their daily tasks. A lot of what we do is behind the scenes work. With the application and development support, we work a lot to integrate systems and ensure they are working, passing information as necessary. We ensure the network is up and reliable and folks have access to items allowing their daily work, such as email, Office 365. Our team works to provide technical support and training to various groups throughout the city. CJ just wrapped up, among others, some in-person security training. Actually went out to a couple of different departments and provided that training locally and in person, which is fantastic. We do PC replacements on a regular basis to ensure that our tools are up to date and functioning well as needed. We have a GIS person on staff who assists with maps throughout the city. And we help manage the IT CIP projects. This year, our team closed a little over 2,800 service desk tickets, which is an incredible amount. We provide services to our citizens, which include the GIS portal, online permitting, online utility billing, and online records requests. We also assist departments with automation, Laserfish being the most recent and current example. and we're constantly looking for areas of improvement. Just this past month, we were in front of the commission for placing 6th in the Digital Cities Survey, which is a fantastic accomplishment for our group. It's a nationwide, nationally recognized award, so it's great to place so high on that list. In 1819, the team upgraded the facility doors security, implemented GovQA, which has since processed over 2,100 requests. We also have implemented the GIS portal, which has such services as FEMA, wind speed, a lot of Northport information layers. We've done enhanced cybersecurity training with staff, both online and in person. Coming up, we will continue to do video surveillance activities at the different parks and facilities. With Laserfiche, we will implement workflow capabilities, which will include digital signatures. We are improving network security with some new tools. We are replacing a number of pieces of network equipment which are over 8 years old, which will be a wonderful improvement to the city. Installing fiber between the parks and grounds to the Family Service Center. We will be replacing the TriCaster, which is delivering the streaming capabilities of these meetings to our customers. There will be a desk phone upgrade. Our phone company was bought out, and so we will be not replacing telephones, but replacing the software behind them for new and improved features. And we will also be working to upgrade and replace the city's intranet using SharePoint and hopefully rolling out Teams, which is a new tool for a number of individuals and groups and departments to work with.
But, oh man, the improvements that I saw over this past year, even though your team was short, was tremendous. And I have to say thank you for what you guys did. GIS can't beat us in that department. I mean, you're right there to help out all the time. Assisted the election supervisor's office in getting stuff. I mean, it was done within a couple of days and very beneficial to the citizens. So overall, thank you, team. Done a great job.
Seeing no others, I've got a couple questions or comments or requests for updated information. The first one is GovQA. It says here that it's implemented. Is that fully functioning at this point?
Catherine Johnston for the record, Business Systems Analyst. The primary functions of the GovQA system are up and running and fully functional. We have some additional modules and functionality that we will be doing as a phase 2 this year to complete any open items, such as online payments. That's one of the open items, as well as deflection. Deflection is the ability for citizens to be prompted when they start a request, to be prompted for hey, we've already given this to someone, is this what you're looking for? Or if they're asking for things like resolutions or ordinances, here's a link to go directly to our Laserfiche system to be able to pull those documents. So those are on the plate for this year.
This year, 2020, to be all finished?
That is,
There-
yes, that is the expectation.
Fantastic. Does the Northport PD have online payments with their, when they get records requests, do they automatically do online payments?
Currently, PD is still on the GovQA system, but there is a plan to migrate them off to a new system that they are purchasing. My understanding is they expect to have that system up mid-February. So no, we did not implement in 2019 the online payment for either function, city or PD.
So if there's a records payment that needs to be done through the Northport PD, how does that payment process work? Do they,
I'm not intimately detailed. I don't know their details fully for how they manage it. It is a process that existed prior to GovQA that they have maintained.
okay, so it's not related to GovQA?
No.
It's something that was already in place that I would
Yes.
assume is working, so why fix it, especially with GovQA?
Right, we held off the online payments until after we finished the migration of PD. So the intent was to migrate PD off of the GovQA system into their new system, and then we'll take on the work of implementing the online payments.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. All right, so now I have to do the hard part. And sir, I'm going to preface it by, I understand this is no reflection on you. You're the new manager. But Track It has been something that we have been working on for 2.5 years. We gave authorization to fund it and purchase it back in, I think it was May of 2017. Here we are 2.5 years later. It's still not working. And we even budgeted an additional $250,000 to get it up and working 4 months ago. Last month, we asked for a timeline and an update monthly on how this is going. And I'm wondering, because we haven't seen it yet, what is going on with Track It?
We are preparing a historical timeline. Should be to you very soon. We're working with Neighborhood Development Services on that. We intend to, Neighborhood Development Services and IT intend to sit down with the attorney's office and discuss next steps. That will also be part of the timeline presented to you.
So, reading between those lines, is it safe to say that this is not going as well as anticipated? I mean, if you're getting the attorney's office involved, I would venture to say that there's problems, and I don't know if this is IT or if this is NDS or if it's a problem with the supplier.
In my experience with IT, vendor issues arise, and there are often troubles. This is not uncommon in our field. How we move forward with it will be a team discussion.
Assistant City Manager, do you have an idea when we would be getting this timeline and this update so that we can see exactly what is going on? Because the commission had to approve the additional monies. I would assume the commission is involved with these next steps. And maybe you need direction to say, I don't know what is coming forward.
I think,
Everybody's being very vague.
well, I think we talked about we could probably get something in a couple weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sooner than
so sooner, so week to two to get an update to you. Next step for IT and NDS is to meet with the city attorney's office to talk about where we're at with the contract, kind of at a stalemate. So either we're looking to pursue some legal action against the vendor or able to see what our options are. And then at that time, if it requires to come back to the commission for direction or approval, we will at that point. So does that answer your question? Or are you looking for some more detail? I can have NDS come up and speak a little bit to the conversations they've been having with the vendor over the last month or two, if you'd like that.
I guess then the biggest question that I have is, did we pay this vendor the $250,000 that was budgeted starting fiscal year October 1st, 2019?
We have not,
No?
no.
Okay. Look forward to the memo at that point then. I guess there's nothing more we can do until after you guys sit down and have this conversation, and hopefully the memo will give some specifics instead of vagueness. That's what I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I see no other questions or comments from the board. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on to second reading and city clerk. Interim stepping in, filling in, city clerk, if you could please read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Northport, Florida, amending the code of the City of Northport, Florida, Section 58-103, related to the calculation of impact fees, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, and providing an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I guess this one is going to be city attorney?
Yes, ma'am, this ordinance is coming back for a second reading based on commission direction. There have been no substantive changes to the ordinance. The only difference between the version for first reading and second reading is that the line numbers have been removed and one scrivener's error that referred to the wrong internal section was corrected.
Thank you so much. Let's see here. I guess we do public comment at this point. So I have two cards, Mr. Suggs and Lou Sparuto.
Rich Suggs, a resident of Northport and a member of the Northport Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm just here to voice my support of this amendment or this ordinance, and I see it more as a consistency issue when the city gives its approval for something and then kind of changes it at the last moment. Whether or not the developer knew that it might be coming down, it's still something we need to live with. You know, I'm a business owner in this town and talked to a number of businesses that have come to this area, and the one thing that they complain about the most, but they have a lot of good things to say about Northport, don't get me wrong, is consistency. And so I know this affects a couple of pretty big developments and people that are wanting to put businesses in here. So I do appreciate that you address this issue pretty much and are willing to live up to what the city said. Also, just want to throw in real quick, I'm a big home rule person, so I also appreciate the fact that you're bringing up Resolution 2020 R02. I'm not saying I'm pretty much in agreement with you know, what it stands for, but it's a home rule issue. And I'm a home rule kind of guy because I think all politics starts here. And I do appreciate y'all bringing that up and letting the people in Tallahassee know that we don't appreciate them taking that home rule away from us. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs. Mr. Sparuto?
Lou Sparuto for the record. I worked for the Northport Building Department for 16 years before retiring, and I created the schedules used for calculating impact fees. I also worked with Sarasota County to create their schedules based on their impact fees. In the past, I remember the city collecting impact fees when a permit was issued, but most permit fees were paid by check at that time. This changed when we started accepting credit card payments. Impact fees have to be paid by check or cash. The city also wanted to be consistent with other municipalities and collect them anytime prior to a CO. Prior to the Tyndall Oliver study, our list of use groups was very limited. Remember the ice cream cupcake parlor problem? The term preliminary in the 2012-01 ordinance came into use because the use of some commercial projects changed during construction in ways that the original application review and fee estimate did not account for. The warehouses on Toledo Blade were a good example of this problem. Preliminary estimates in the past have never been done for residential construction and given to contractors unless requested. Preliminary estimates for commercial permits were only provided upon request and placed in the file and noted in the plan review. Previous impact fee schedules showed that the city did not begin counting the 90 days until after the commission's second reading of the ordinance because a schedule could not be created until the actual fees were established. This then gave staff time to create a new schedule and post it. New applications were then calculated at the new rate, and all previous applications were locked into the old rates unless the use changed or went inactive. All municipalities in this area collect impact fees at the time of application and do not reassess them at CO. Sarasota County, for example, gives developers 60 months to finish an active permit before imposing any new rates. There are many current commercial permits that will not be completed by January of 2021. For example, the apartments on Toledo Blade. And future residents currently have a situation where some residential permits may go on for 24 to 36 months because their contractor recently filed for bankruptcy. Your aquatic center took 22 months. Contractors should be able to trust that the city is calculating the correct fees and that those fees will not be changed at CO. This transparency benefits everyone. Remember, these fees are subject to going down by a future commission. Remember the moratorium on transportation fees in 2012? Having the fees collected at CO would have lost significant money for the city. Also, commissions should be reviewing and adjusting impact fees every 1 or 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Caputo. Boy, you got that 3 minutes down pat. You're right
You know
there.
how many
at the
times
mic.
I had to, I was gone, I wasn't in town for the last few meetings, so you don't know how many times I rewrote that to get it down.
Good job. All right, thank you. All right. Vice Mayor Luke?
Yeah, I want to bring up the discussion that we were having at the last meeting. Mr. Tim Bush brought some things forward pertaining to line 44 of page 2. And I want to try to articulate how I feel about this. The first speaker talked about consistency. And right now, we can't be consistent when we're doing what we're doing. And I think going back to the way that was described with the second speaker, the way it had been done in the past is probably the best way in order to keep consistent. Personally, I don't mind the payment being gathered at the time of the CO, but utilizing the impact fee schedule at the time of the permit. I believe different permits last different lengths of time. And so the only issue that we would come upon if we use the current fee schedule at the time of permit would be if we changed the impact fee, after that point. But if a permit needs to be extended, staff has even worked on a draft that would be stating, and they would be signing off on it, stating that they realize that the new impact fee at the time of an extension would be put in place. And the only time we're talking about, business goes on as usual, the only time that we talk about these changes is when the impact fee schedule does change. 2011, I believe, was the last study that was done. I agree, every year to 2 years, it needs to be re-looked at, but it's probably going to change this year. I think we're leaning toward that 100% mark this year, so it's going to be changing again this year. We talked about having a new study done, so there'll probably be a change when that study comes back. So within the next couple of years, we are probably going to be seeing some adjustments to that fee schedule. And I want it to be consistent. And if we don't address that issue of consistency right now and do it as, I've got a list of Charlotte County, Sarasota County, Manatee County, City of Bradenton, Cape Coral, Punta Gorda, and Venice, that all have the impact fee schedule based on the date and the time of the permit. We have a new individual, Anthony, worked for the City of Bradenton. They did it the same way. I sat in a class not too long ago where that is part of what development needs in order to flourish, is the consistency of knowing what these impacts are. Mr. Timbush has sent me a paper where they have to have all of their funding permitted prior to they have to have that permitting funding available prior to getting the permit. And then if it's all changed, they're having to go back and ask for more money. And to me, that is unfair. So though this ordinance addresses the issue that we had formed, I would like to see that paragraph starting at line 44, the second parenthesis, be adjusted so that it states that we will be utilizing the impact fee schedule at the time of permit. It can be collected at the CO, but I would like to see it be utilizing the impact fee at the time of permitting. And then it could also state that if a permit needs to be extended, that at the time of extension, that new impact fee schedule would come into play. Thank you.
Seeing no other requests to speak, I will speak on this. When we had this discussion, it was explained to us that in the past, the permit always had, when the permit was issued, the impact fees were collected at CO based on the impact fees at CO. And that's quite different than what the public commenter had said. So I need to make sure we're speaking the same language here. And I don't know if you can get somebody from staff to help me explain it, because maybe it's at permitting, at CO. Yes, a permit is issued, and then at CO, they get their CO, but then what impact fees are they paying at CO?
Yes, Mayor.
And how was it done in the past? Because it's my understanding is totally different than what the public commenter had said.
Frank Miles here, he can answer.
Thank you.
Yes, Mayor and Commission.
State your name for the record, please.
Frank Miles, Director of Neighborhood Development Services. And I'm going to ask Ms. Katrina Romano, who's our Administrative Services Manager from the Building Department, who has some experience from the past as well as present in terms of the assessment of impact fees and the issues related thereto.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. For the record, Katrina Romano, Administrative Manager for Neighborhood Development Services Department. As far as back as I can remember, which is about close to 15 years, we have always assessed the impact fees at the time of permit submittal, and then they were collected at CO. There was a small period of time where we did collect impact fees up front. I couldn't tell you exactly what the date was and when the ordinance changed. However, we have always gone by the current impact fee schedule in effect at that time when the permit is submitted. So I'll use the term locked in, okay? If a permit gets submitted today, we're going to go by our current impact fee schedule, whatever that is, whatever the fees are in place today, they are locked in. Nothing changes from the time it's submitted to the time they get a CO. I mean, there are some, solid waste fees are prorated, that changes, but the impact fees themselves do not change. And that has been the practice as long as I've been in the building department.
Okay, so I have to process this. So I'll be asking a question.
Yes?
So if a home developer came in January 1st of 2016 at the 42% impact fee rate and applied for a permit, and then came back in August of 2019 and got his CO, based on what you guys did in the past, what rate would he be paying for impact fees? Is it the 42 or is it the
It
75?
was the 42 because that was what was in place when he submitted his permit, or he or she, I should say.
That is quite different than what we were told even at the first reading. Unless it's,
I don't know how it was explained, and I can't speak to that, but I can just speak to the practice that I'm aware of and the practice that we've used in the building division. And it always locks in at the time of permit submittal. When we put a permit number on it, that's the schedule it goes under.
I've always understood.
all right. So based on the city attorney's interpretation, legal opinion, the impact fees, using that same scenario, that they applied for a permit in January of 2016 and then came for their CO in August or whatever of 2019, what impact fee are they paying based on the code? Because that's what we have to follow, is the code.
Yes, ma'am. Based on the code, it would be the impact fee in place at the time of the issuance of the certificate.
And how long has the code then been in place? Because it's my understanding we haven't changed the code.
Correct.
I would have to go back and verify. I know that there was a specific language to this effect put into the code related to the 2014 changes, that there was language in the code that is similar to the language you're considering today to allow a bit of a grace period that was supposed to end on January 31st. If they had their permit by January 31st of 15 and got their certificate by 16, then they would use the impact fees assessed at the time of the permit. And after that, they should have been assessed at the full rate. So unless there's a specific exception in there, like that was for that period of time, that the code language required that they be assessed based on what was in effect at the time the certificate was issued, whether or not that was the actual practice. That's what the local law said. Or that was the effect of the local law. Let me put it that way, because it did not state that as explicitly as what I just said.
What I'm hearing is we have a code in place that wasn't followed. Hang on, I'm waiting for the answer.
Well, I can add something to that if you would. The language somewhere along the line was changed prior to that language being changed, and I'd have to go back and pull, that ordinance or that language. I don't know the exact date. I'm sure you don't either, Amber. I would say that we probably continued to practice the previous language, and it wasn't changed. Whenever that language was changed, somehow it wasn't communicated, or, the department kept its practice.
So what language was in place on June 11th when we approved the impact fee to 75%?
On June 11th, and the ordinance that increased the impact fee, on June 11th, you considered for second reading 2 ordinances related to impact fees. One was to increase the impact fees, and the other was related to some other language in the impact fee section of the code regarding deferrals. There was some procedure, some process outlined and some criteria related to deferrals. And then in that same ordinance, some old and outdated language was removed. So at that time, the outdated language was removed that related specifically to which impact fee would apply based on your permit in 2015 and 2016, because that was date specific, that was taken out. So that leaves the code language specifically stating, if you'll give me 1 second to switch over. In section 58-103, that the impact fee shall be preliminarily calculated at the time of issuing a building permit, that a final calculation of the fee shall occur, and unless deferred, shall be collected upon the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. When you adopted your impact fee ordinance to go into effect immediately, then it would go into effect immediately, and that means that it would be utilized for that final calculation, unless there was something in the code that provided otherwise, or something in the legislative history and the findings of the ordinance that provided otherwise, and there was nothing. Regardless of what the practice of a division may have been, what we're looking for with respect to interpreting the city's ordinances is what the legislation actually says, what the legislative body, the city commission, has actually done. And the first tenet of what we call statutory construction, which we also use to interpret ordinances, is if the ordinance speaks for itself, if the plain language speaks for itself, then you follow what it says. You don't even have to get into, well, what did they really mean by that? What are the other factors that you consider? And here that's what the code language said. The code language never, in this review for this time frame, said that the impact fees would be calculated at the time of permitting and locked in, or assessed. It anticipates two calculations, a preliminary at the time of permit issuance and a final calculation at the time of the issuance of the certificate.
So because of division, and I don't even know, and I'm not trying to place blame or anything, but somebody made the determination to not follow the code.
Well, can I just add one thing to that?
If I can, before you speak, Gina,
Yes.
because we work obviously with all of the departments and the divisions in the city, and what we're seeing throughout the city is an update in process and in practices, and I'll let the building division speak for themselves, but I can say that we've seen several things, not necessarily code related, but that are oversights, and I anticipate that that's what occurred here.
Now we're left trying to resolve an oversight that really isn't an oversight, because the code said that you collect the impact fee at the time of CO based on the impact fee rate in place at CO. And I just cannot begin to even think of the ramifications that we're going to have, because we have so many permits that are still outstanding. We have probably close to 100 that are homes that are prior to June of 2018 even. And then we have commercial that we've probably got about another, 30 that are commercial. All of this information would have really been helpful when we adopted the impact fee changes and had that discussion then, because this just added to the whole confusion. It was very cut and dry when we approved the impact fee to 75%. Impact fees are 75%, cut and dry. At CO, cut and dry, 75%. And then there was this problem of interpretation, and somebody said to do it this way, and somebody said to do it that way, and not following the code, that has created this.
If I may, Mayor, you were right. If we'd had all this information at the time, I think it probably would have been helpful to the board. Unfortunately, we discovered it after the fact, and that's in part due to the fact that the impact fees jumped so much. It's fairly irregular for a locality to be assessing impact fees at such a small percentage of the overall consultant rate, but then to make such a jump from the 42 to 75, I mean, it's not quite 50, not quite doubled, but it's close, right? So I think that was part of the issue, because the impact fees had not been reviewed on a regular basis and, increased or modified in a lockstep fashion. It was a big change, and that's what brought the attention to the issue.
I agree, but that big change was warranted because the consultant in 2011 recommended a 100% rate, and that rate was never realized in 9 years. And now here we're going to be doing another impact fee study, and those rates are probably going to be even a larger jump than even putting the 2011 rates at 100%. This is a comedy of just craziness. Vice Mayor.
Actually, I'm thankful that all of this has come to light, and I'm not going to blame anybody for misinterpreting or being wrong on a code. Could be the code was written wrong. Could be the intent of the code was to state one thing and actually the wording came out differently. I find it very difficult that an entire department would do something in error that was in the intent was to perform something different. I think what we're talking about, what has been done in the past, you referred to it as locking in at the time of permitting, to me is the fairest and it is the most consistent. It keeps us from getting into issues that we are in right now. And with that, I'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to speak to that before you do a motion, and we have some permits that are outstanding since prior to 2017. I don't know how far back they go. If we do that back to permits, some of these may even be where we collected no transportation impact fees. I don't know how far back these numbers go. I only asked for the past 2 years. And if we go back to permitting, before I could even consider something like that, we need to see what kind of an impact that's going to have.
But none of it was budgeted. That raise was not budgeted. That was clarified in the first meeting.
I understand that. But to not collect any impact fees, and maybe a developer had issued extensions or made changes, I mean.
Well, if I can bring that up, just today, I believe our building official provided some language, and Vice Mayor Luke spoke to that, as far as permits that are outstanding or are become expired and requests to be reactivated, that would go through the building official, and the language in that document would clearly state that if they are reinstating it, that they would fall under any new impact fee schedule.
So where is this language, this proposed language? I haven't seen it.
Well, I think it was sent in an email by our building official today, so.
If I can have the leeway to hand this to them, they can put it up on the screen for everybody to see.
Can I make a suggestion? Since this is something that is very, very detail-oriented, and there's proposed language that was just came up with today, maybe what we need to do is postpone this for 2 weeks or until the end of the month, since the agenda just posted, and really look at this and get some concrete, detailed information and consequences, than to just sit here and make a change to just make a change, because this is going to have effects not only for between now and January of 2021, it's going to have effects based on what this new impact fee study is going to bring back. We got to do it, and we got to do it right, because it obviously wasn't done right the first time.
I'm still ready to make a motion.
I'm ready to receive it.
I'd like to see what the language is that's being proposed.
Oh, here. Oh, we're working. There you go. That should, yeah.
The line in italics.
I acknowledge that as a result of this extension, my impact fees will be reassessed at the rates that are in effect at the time of this extension request.
Where is that in the ordinance language that we're approving today?
That's going to be put in when I make the motion.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I move to bring ordinance number 2020-05 back for a third reading.
Thank you.
Changing the wording of section 58-103, section 2, stating with the city attorney working with staff, primarily Ms. Romano, in wording it to facilitate what we've done in the past so that the impact fee schedule, we're utilizing the impact fee schedule at the time of permit. It can still be collected at CO, but they will be utilizing the fee schedule at the time of permit. When the permit lapses and it needs to be extended, this new form can be used to state that for 180 days, the new impact fee schedule that is current at that point would be utilized for the renewal of the permit. Thank you.
Hearing no second, I'll second. Vice Mayor, anything to that?
I believe it addresses where we went awry with this current situation, but this also places us where we stay consistent and we avoid these types of things coming up again. As far as saying, oh boy, we're going from 42.5% up to 75%, so we're collecting more money, that was never within the budgets. That is not, to me, fair at all to do to somebody. And so using this, I believe is the fair way to go for all of us. Thank you.
And Vice Mayor, I'm grateful that you asked this to come back to a third reading, and that's the only reason why I seconded this. I think that that is fair for us to be able to make an
See the
informed
reading,
and see
exactly.
exactly what this language is going to look like. Get with staff to get some other questions that may arise, find out what the overall consequences are, if there are any. I don't know, because this is a whole new subject. I thought we were coming here to approve a second ordinance extending the processing until January of 2021. So I'm grateful for the third reading. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Seeing no other speakers, anything to that? We'll call the question. And that passed 4-0. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you, staff.
seeing that we had already public comment on that item, does Mr. Gunnan and Mr. Spruto want to speak again? Seeing that it's coming back.
So it's going to come back.
Yes, sir.
The problem is,
Sir, you'll have to come up and do your public comment for 3 minutes.
Lou Sperduto,
Thank you.
the problem is your 3 minutes isn't enough to give you some history and give you some understanding. One of the issues that I brought up had to do with the warehouses that were built by Jefferson on Toledo Blade Boulevard. The problem with those warehouses is that they were built as a shell. So they came with impact fees as a warehouse. When the tenants did their build-outs, they came in as either general retail. Some of them kept warehouse in the back and an office in the front. So they were assessed additional fees based on the fact that they had an office in the front. When we went out for final CO, they were selling products in the front. it changed again at CO. And that's what I meant by, if the use changes, then the city's entitled to its fair share of the fees. They had the same problem with the cupcake shop that was over on Tamiami Trail that was built as a warehouse. When the lady come in and did her tenant build out, she was charged for general retail. She went through the roof. It wasn't our problem. Now, since then, since the Tyndall Oliver studies come out, we have a lot more use categories. The reason we have to put the schedule together is because the ordinance is real difficult for the layperson to understand. So we put a schedule together that lists all the different various uses that transportation uses, and then we assign the fee from library and parks to those so that we have basically have a schedule that somebody can go by. And it helps them understand what their fees are gonna be. Preliminary, the wording was changed in the impact fee because preliminarily, we can only go by what we had in front of us to assess those fees. Until it actually gets to CO and we know what they're gonna do in there, they could change because the use changes. And this is why, those words came into effect. Instead, it was easier for us to change it than it was to leave it as designated or, a firm price. But having 2 or 3 minutes, if you had a workshop, or I guess if we came to you individually to sit down and give you some history, I'd be more than happy to set up a meeting with your staff and come in and talk to you about these. Because I have 20 years' experience with the city in this, and like I said, some of these projects aren't going to get finished in a year or two. Sarasota County is 60 months. I do believe that since permit fees never expire by state statute, that at some point you may want to look at giving people the opportunity or having something worded in your ordinance that says you have 36 months to get a CO or 60 months to be consistent with Sarasota County. That's entirely up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Spruto, and if you could get with staff, I'll be happy to meet with you individually, seeing that 3 minutes is not enough. Thank you. Mr. Gunnan, did you want to speak even though the item's coming back?
Of course he does. Yeah.
Yeah, you missed the first public comment about this item, so I wanted to give you the opportunity.
Sure, thank you, I appreciate it. Good afternoon, Bill Gunnan, Executive Director of the Northport Area Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to bring a couple of things and I can share with you. This, as Vice Mayor Luke said earlier, this was brought up before when there was no impact fee and they talked about raising it by the consultant. The Chamber and this Business Economic Development Committee had numerous meetings on this and gathered a lot of input from not only our Chamber members, but our community. And we actually came, and believe it or not, everybody would like to get things free, so let's forget that, we know that. But they understood the concept of why we needed to raise it. But we came up with a good plan on a 5-year increment that I can share with you guys again, that we formally adopted by the Board of Directors to the Commission and sharing our idea how to raise those impact fees. I'll be more than glad to send that back to you again because we kept those stance there. The other portion I was going to say, and we will discuss it with our members, is as you're talking about the implementation of the fees. Kind of similar to when they're talking about the sign ordinances before in 41, when they were talking about charging everybody when they had to do their signs and meet the code. That uproar was unbelievable, and we worked with not only our chamber members, but the community, businesses, and we're able to work with the city and saying, we need to grandfather those people who are already in place and understood that their sign changed by more than 50% or a new business came in. Yes, meet the new codes. I assure you, Mayor, that you're right. If somebody got their building permit and paid in advance or got the building permit prior to the June date of 19, and we went back later and tried to charge them for the new fee, the uproar would be something else. It really will. We'll hear it. But we would love to work with you and talk to our business community, talk to our chamber members, how they feel about that, and we'll go through our process. But there it is. If somebody has applied for a permit already with the city before the new fee went in place, and you're to come back and say, oh, no, you're going to have to pay the new fee, I can guarantee you that we will hear an uproar from the community. And obviously, we will address it and bring back our opinion to the commission, but into the city staff. But we have been more than willing to work with you on this and see how we can help make this work. But I will be more than happy to send you what we recommended prior when we did this before, so that you have input on what the people in our community thought back several years ago on raising the impact fees. All right?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Bennett.
I remember that committee meeting.
We'll keep you posted when we're going to have that third reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing nothing else to this item, let's move on to resolution number 2020 R28. Ms. Laura, if you could read that by title only, please.
A resolution of the City of Northport, Florida, strongly encouraging the state legislature to approve Senate Bill 182 and any companion House bills relating to the preemption of recyclable and polystyrene materials by amending Florida statute sections 403.7033 and 500.90, repealing the preemption of local laws regarding the use or sale of single-use plastic bags and polystyrene materials, providing for transmittal, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brinko, or is that City Attorney?
This one's mine as well. Thank you, Mayor. This resolution has been brought back at commission direction pursuant to Vice Mayor Luke's request. It does involve two Florida state statutes. Section 403.7033 preempts local governments from enacting any rule, regulation, or ordinance regarding use, disposition, sale, prohibition, restriction, or tax of auxiliary containers, wrappings, or disposable plastic bags. Florida statute section 500.90 states that the regulation of the use or sale of polystyrene products by essentially local governments is preempted to the state. So that's the subject matter of the resolution before you.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. And Vice Mayor Luke, if you want to speak to your own item?
Yeah, this is definitely, as Mr. Suggs was talking about, it's aimed at these statutes, but what it's really talking about is home rule. This city, oh goodness,
Palm Bay?
Palm Bay, I believe it was, yes. They sent the letter to all of us wanting us to come on board to help combat this. They had already set, according to home rule, their own ordinance. So the state came in and preempted, not only preempted for the future, but they retroacted. So what they had in place was all undone because of the preemption. So what this is doing is encouraging the legislators to approve the Senate Bill 182, which gives us back more of our home rule that gets taken to us in any companion House bill that might arise with this. So this is more of a fight for having home rule again. Seems like we're fighting that all the time.
Seems like it's every House bill or Senate bill that we're fighting.
Yeah, it's not doing anything really toward the material. It's after undoing the preemption, and then it would be up to the cities to decide what they want to do from there on out. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, the only thing I would like to add is the transmittal. I think that not only the list of people in the transmittal that this gets sent to, but I think we should add the FLC and also Sarasota County Commissioners to see if they would be of support of this also. I think the more people we get on board with protecting our home rule, regardless of the subject matter, the better off it's going to be. And I would really like to see amended to include the FLC and Sarasota County. And just food for thought, I have a COG meeting next week, and I will be happy to share this resolution with those members of COG to see if they would like to get on board too.
There's already two nonprofits that I'm aware of that are working with this city trying to help us with our home rule also. So are you ready for a motion then?
I see no other speakers, so go ahead, Tracy.
Move to approve resolution number 2020-R-02.
Second.
Do you have anything to that, Vice Mayor?
Yes, I would like to add to the transmittal, the FLC and Sarasota County to that, please.
Are you making an amendment to that?
Sure, I'll make that an amendment.
Is that okay with your second?
I'm good.
Do we need to vote on it since it's a like all-encompassing motion / amendment to include the FLC? She made a main motion to approve the resolution, and then during her comment, she said she wanted to add
If
FLC.
she withdrew her motion and restated it, and the seconder restated in the motion
Okay.
as changed is what's live.
Okay, I remove my
We'll pull it, and I'll move to approve resolution 2020-R-02, including Florida League of City and the Sarasota County Commission with transmittal.
Second.
Motion on the floor to approve Resolution 2020-R-02, including in transmittal to the FLC and Sarasota County by Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner Hanks. Anything to that?
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to support this, and I just wanted to make a mention of this so that there is no confusion as to the reasons why I'm supporting this. With the previous resolution that I did not support. And that is, though I would be very cautious about the approval or adoption of any local ordinance like this because of the undue burdens I believe it places upon folks. Again, I do believe, as was stated by Mr. Suggs and by Ms. Luke, that to have these things that are fought in the trenches here at home, they need to be fought here in the trenches here at home on both sides. And I don't like the fact that there is some high tower somewhere telling us everything that we need to do down here. We're the ones that live and breathe this air together. We share DNA together. So I think it should stay here, where we're friends and family.
Seeing no other comments to this, I'm grateful to Vice Mayor Luke for working with the city attorney to bring this forward. Hopefully, optimistically, the state will hear us and repeal this so that we can make our own rules and regulations in our area, because not everybody, not all municipalities or counties in the state are the same. We all have different needs. We're inland. The coastal lines have their needs. So we have reasons why we have home rule. And it's up to the cities to make these rules that hit everybody close to their own home, no matter where that is. So thank you for that. Here, seeing no other speakers, we'll go ahead and call the question. And that passed 4-0. Moving on to general business. Oh, city manager, do you need direction to send us a copy that this has been done and sent out to everybody, transmitted?
Go ahead, just make it a directive, and then we'll include that on the report.
Can I get a consensus to have the city manager inform us and send us a copy of the transmittals?
Sure.
Thank you. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on to the general business regarding the potential sale of the property on Elderon to connect to Sumter. City manager?
Yes, Mayor. This item is just discussion possible action for the potential purchase of the property of Elderon Avenue sidewalk project connection to the Sumter Boulevard sidewalk. We have Julie Belia, Public Works Director, who's available to answer any questions.
All right, and before we do that, since this was my agenda item that the city manager put on my behalf, I just wanted to give a quick little overview. A citizen advised me that they saw a for sale sign on one of those properties. If you'll remember way back, I think it was like 2017, there's 3 parcels that would make a great connection from the new Elderon project that has already been completed, the sidewalk project, to the Sumter sidewalk project that obviously already exists. At that time, for some reason, the property wasn't available or something, it never got done. Well, now it was brought to my attention that there was one parcel that is for sale. And I am asking for, give the city manager direction to find out about purchasing that property and possibly even just starting the conversation over again with the other two properties to see if maybe one of those are for sale. Because this connection is very important to the residents in that area. When they had their neighborhood meeting, this was one of the things that they really, really wanted to have done. So that's why I put it on for us to talk about. I don't know even if the property is still for sale. It may have already sold. I don't know. So, city manager, did staff want to speak to this?
Yes, I believe Julie Belia, Public Works Director.
Thank you.
Want to give an update.
For the record, Juliana Belia, Public Works Director. And with me today is Ben Newman. He's our project engineer for our department. Back in 2017, Mr. Newman specifically worked for quite a long time, actually went into probably 2 to 3 years, trying to secure one of the 3 properties to make the Sumter Boulevard connection to the Eldron Crittenden sidewalk. However, that did not come to fruition. At the time, they were not willing to sell any of the 3 properties to make the connection. I've been asked to do a little bit of research what we would need to do now if we were in fact able to purchase the property to make the connection. The first thing we would have to do is we would have to budget monies for the purchase of the property. We would also have to, establish it as a project and budget monies for the design of the project. We could probably do a lot of the design in-house. We would have to budget funds for the construction of the sidewalk. It's approximately about 150 linear feet. And after that, we would also have to bid the project again. We'd have to get a contractor to build the project. Now, to make the best use of the money and most efficient as far as mobilization and things like that, we would recommend putting in, for example, fiscal year 2021 with another sidewalk project. And we would, bid out that whole entire thing because it would be very expensive to just build a small segment of sidewalk project such as this. So that's pretty much the process we would have to go through.
Thank you very much for that
You're welcome.
explanation on the process. I do appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I looked over the backup material, which was previous meeting in 2017, and it was obviously within the first few months that the other guys were on the commission, because I wasn't even on the commission at that point. So when you guys are talking about the 3 lots, was it that you were looking for one of the 3, or you were looking at all 3 of them?
For the record, Ben Newman, Public Works. We were looking at just one of the 3 lots, and we
Okay.
weren't sure which, if any of them, would be available, so we certainly
Okay.
had,
So now finally one has come. Okay, just making sure we weren't
Yes.
trying to get 3 of them. All right, what about swapping or trading this lot with another lot with the people who own it? Instead of paying money for it, why not swap one of those 19 that we have or so?
Vice Mayor Luke, if I may just speak to that. So direction from, I think it was December 5th meeting or 10th, was for us to come back with swapping procedures and selling property procedures. So I did put that on the CM report. I'm looking to be able to bring that back by March. So I just wanted to have that information that we don't have anything in place right now. The direction that was given to us at the time for the surplus properties, the 19 that you're referring to, was for us to contact the adjacent owners and to get their input if they wanted to purchase the property first. And then if they didn't, we were to retain all those lots, not sell them. In this case, I'm just so that I make sure, you were
Okay.
just asking that a lot be swapped. And so,
my reply to that is, well, with it not being enacted or brought about, we're dealing with this right now, current as is. So if you wanted to swap a property or that right now, it would just come before this commission, correct? So you could actually go to that owner, ask them if they would be interested in swapping, and if they were, you could come back and we could do it even before you brought something back in March. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
There is. The properties that we're looking to swap, we haven't figured out exactly the process in place of the value of what maybe the lot we're looking at for the sidewalk compared to what we have owned, and to see if that's comparable and where. And so we're still kind of working out those details.
Yeah, but still, you can go on, I mean, you've provided right here how much this one is worth. And if you go on to that property appraiser site, I'm sure you can pull up the 19 also.
Oh, yeah.
And instead of waiting for everybody to figure out what we're going to do in the future, I don't think we really have to wait. We can act on it by approaching them and then just bring it back to the commission and see what the will of the commission would be.
Anything else, Vice Mayor?
No, I think that's enough.
Okay. Commissioner Hanks?
Yeah, I just want to address what Commissioner Luke is discussing here, and I don't see any problem with asking anybody anything. I think you're going to be very hard pressed if we show any property of equal or less value, even equal value, just because of the hassle of having to go through the swap, the deed transformations and all that. So, I think what we would be looking at is we'd be looking at a property of greater value. I'm saying if I'm the owner of this property, I want a property of greater value. That's going to cover my time, and I think just trying to figure out whether or not that is, what that is, whether or not that is even responsible, because if we're having to provide a property that is a few grand higher, it might just be better to buy the property than it is to exchange property of higher value and lose a higher valued asset that we could use later on for something we absolutely need, for something that is greater than this, whether it's, building another structure that the city is in need of. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Emmerich, did you have something to it, please?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. So on the value of this property that we're looking at purchasing, is that correct at $6,900?
That's property appraisers.
Yeah. Okay, so that's.
We have not had an official appraisal or anything conducted yet.
that's-
That would just be property appraisers, yes, sir.
Okay. And by buying this one lot, that would complete the project. I'm hearing that. All you needed was the one lot, not
Yes.
three.
Yes, sir. If we could get at least one lot, that would satisfy the connection area for the land in order to extend the sidewalk from Eldron, Crittenden to Sumter.
Okay, well, we'll see where it goes, whether we buy or swap, and
Okay.
just moving forward. That's all I
Yes,
needed.
sir.
Thank you.
My turn. While we don't have a procedure in place, sometimes having procedures in place just hog tie us to no end and nothing gets done. And I'm seeing that happening with this. To me, like Commissioner Hank said, it's a simple phone call to say, hey, we're interested in purchasing your property, and here's why. And not just the one that's for sale. I'm looking at asking all three of them again, because it's planting seeds. In 2017, yeah, the answer was no. But the seed was planted. Hey, the city was interested in this. Maybe they've had something happen, and now that the seed is starting to sprout, they are interested in selling. Maybe not this particular property that's for sale, but one on the either side. I'm not looking to purchase all three of them because I don't think that's necessary. But if you can buy one of them, you said that the money has to be budgeted to purchase it. We have money budgeted. We have budgeted $50,000 out of the tree fund to purchase property to save the trees. And in my opinion, these three lots are very well treed. And if we are just putting in a small path, we're not clearing the entire lot, we are saving trees. So we could use, in my opinion, and that would have to be determined by the board, if it meets that definition of saving the trees and using that money. So we do have money budgeted. So I think it's just as simple as saying, asking them and following up with finding out what the appraisal is. Maybe you have to find out what the appraisal is first and then talk to them. I'm not a realtor, so I don't know. But common sense says it's just a simple phone call saying, hey, your property is valued at X. We're interested in buying it for Y. Are you interested in selling or negotiating? Or possibly swapping? It's a conversation. It's not that difficult. Commissioner Luke, or Vice Mayor Luke.
I agree with that statement. Do you know how much they're asking? How much price?
No.
Nobody's even gone that far? Okay, so it definitely has to be a conversation. And to Commissioner Hank's point, yeah, everybody looks at a greater value, but that Elderon and Critton, they are busy streets. Could be they just no longer want to be on a busy street. They want to
Exactly.
move to another area.
Planting a seed.
So exactly. So as was stated, never hurts to ask. So I think this is perfect for us to be able to finish this project, as Commissioner Emmerich was saying. However it works, to me, this is an opportunity for us. And to me, start asking. I wouldn't wait until March for some procedures to come about. I'd jump on it right now. Thank you.
And just to follow up the entire conversation, if we owned the property, that doesn't mean we have to do the project next year. It doesn't mean we even have to do the project in 2 years. We own the property, we can sit on it until we have, one, funding, two, maybe another project or means to do the exact connection. I think we're kind of making things more difficult than they need to be at this point. And I am grateful for staff for giving us the steps that are necessary, but if somebody would like to make a motion, or I'll pass the gavel and make a motion. There you go. Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll make a motion to have the city manager work with the city attorney and staff to approach all 3 properties, not just the one that is listed for sale, to determine if they are interested in selling, and make a offer. No, we can't make an offer until we know what the value is. I make a motion to have the city manager, city attorney, and staff work on contacting the seller to determine their level of interest in selling, and coming back to commission within 1 month with the results of that conversation.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to direct staff to work toward speaking with the owners of those 3 lots to complete the Sumter Boulevard sidewalk project. And that was made by Mayor, seconded by Commissioner Emmerich. Anything to the motion?
And don't forget that I had requested in the motion to report back in 3 and
I
within 1 month.
apologize. In the motion, requesting the information be brought back in 1 month. Mayor, anything to the motion?
No, I think this is something that we need to do, and if there's something for sale, who knows? We're not gonna have the answer if we don't ask.
Commissioner Emmerich?
I just have a question to the motion. You said there's a time frame of 1 month, and you said as a report. That report can be, nobody got back to us within the 1 month, correct? It's not, they have to have a result or anything, it's just a report. I just wanted to verify that, they weren't
That's
pressured.
fast.
Yeah, I just wanted to verify that it could be that they just didn't respond or what have you, is a good enough report for this board.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, call the vote. That passes unanimously, and the,
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
yeah, I started to say the baton's being.
All right, thank you very much. Since we have proclamations at a time certain of 4 o'clock and it's only about 2:30 now, do we want to go through and do commission communication and administrative reports so that way then we can just come back to our proclamations and recognitions? Sound good? Okay. Commission communications, Commissioner Emmerich, anything for you? Vice Mayor Luke.
I only have one thing. I'll say Happy New Year to start off. I'm looking forward to what 2020 brings, not only in my personal life, but in the lives of all of our citizens and our city in particular. I had a report that came to me from the finance department, and I don't know who did the approximate impact fee deductions, but you guys are spot on. I mean, I have never seen a report be so accurate at the first quarter since I've been on this commission. So whoever did that prep work for budgeting and figuring those things, my hat's off to you. I mean, dead on with it. So thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Hanks, do you have any communications?
No, ma'am.
Okay, the only communication that I have, thank you, is we all received a copy of the letter from our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, regarding the liquid aluminum sulfate litigation settlement. And that was for $40,800, give or take. City Manager, where's the money going to go? Is it going to a specific department? What happens to that?
Mayor, I'll have to get back to you. I'm not familiar with what we're discussing right now.
Okay.
I've asked that question twice and haven't had anything sent back, but I know our city manager is sick too, so.
Right. Do you think you could just send a memo within like a couple weeks to just tell us what's going on with that money? Because it sounds like from the research I did that it's because of the materials that were used to treat the water. So I'm curious, what department is it going to and what do they plan to do with the money? That's what my questions were. So,
thank you.
All right. That's all I have besides the Happy New Year and looking forward to 2020 to everybody. City Attorney, do you have anything to report?
No, ma'am.
City Manager or Assistant City Manager?
No, ma'am.
Anything from the Clerk's Department?
Nothing from the clerk's department.
Okay. At this time, we're going to take a recess until 4 o'clock promptly. It's now 2:28. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey there, folks, we're back. It's now 4:01, and we're going to do our proclamations and our recognition. So if the commission can join us downstairs.
Downstairs.
Downstairs? The whole 3 steps. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Right in the back.
All right, good to be back. We have our proclamations right now. This is going to be for School Choice Week. So do we have anybody here for that?
No, they're not in school.
Madison, come on down. No? All right, School Choice Week. Whereas all children in Northport should have access to the highest quality education possible. Whereas the City of Northport recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing all students in Northport to be successful adults. And whereas quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of Northport. And whereas the City of Northport is home to a multitude of excellent education options from which parents can choose for their children. And whereas educational variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrancy of our community. And whereas our area has many high-quality teaching professionals who are committed to educating our children, and whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options. And now, therefore, we, the City Commission of the City of Northport, Florida, do hereby proclaim January 26th through February 1st, 2020 as School Choice Week. And we call this observance to the attention of every one of our citizens. And witness here too, set our hands and seal the City of Northport, Florida, be affixed this 2nd day of January 2020.
Do we have anybody here for the census? Whereas an accurate census count is vital to our community and residents' well-being by helping planners determine where to locate schools, daycare centers, roads, and public transportation, hospitals, and other facilities, and achieving an accurate and complete count of the nation's growing and changing populations. And whereas more than $675 billion per year in federal and state funding is allocated based in part on the census data. And whereas census data helps determine how many seats each state will have in the U.S. House of Representatives and often is used for the redistricting of state legislatures, county and city councils, and voting districts. And whereas the 2020 census creates jobs that stimulate economic growth and increase employment. And whereas the information collected by the census is confidential and protected by laws under Title 13 U.S. Code. And whereas a united voice from business, government, community-based, and faith-based organizations, educators, media, and others will enable the 2020 census message to reach more of our citizens. And now, therefore, we, the City Commission of the City of Northport, Florida, as a 2020 census partner will, 1, support the goals and ideas for the 2020 census and disseminate 2020 census information to encourage those in our community to participate. 2, encourage people in our community to place an emphasis on the 2020 census and participate in events and initiatives that will raise overall awareness and ensure a full and accurate census. 3, support census takers as they help our community complete an accurate count. And 4, create or seek opportunities to collaborate with other like-minded groups in our community by participating in complete count committees and/or utilizing high-profile trusted voices to advocate on behalf of the 2020 census. In witness whereof, we have unto set our hands and seal of the City of Northport, Florida, to be affixed the 2nd day of January, 2020.
Our slogan for the census in Northport is Northport Counts. And I think the important thing about this is we want to let people know this is not just another survey. This is something that matters to our city, both from a funding level and from a House of Representatives level. So I just want to give everybody just a couple quick things of what we're going to be doing the next couple months. We formed a complete count committee. We've got several other members that are a part of that, as well as we've got a good relationship going with our local Census Bureau representative who will be around the city, some upcoming events. We've got a public meeting here next month, February 19th, with the Census Bureau. They're going to be hosting it here, so that'll be a good event. We've also that same day got a meeting with all the HOA presidents in Northport, so I think that'll make an impact, as well as things like signage, city events, and all our normal communication tools, social media, YouTube, different things like that. Overall, we're excited. We're going to help support this cause as much as we can, but I think the key thing is everything we're doing doesn't include all the work the Census Bureau is doing outside of that. So hopefully we can count everyone in Northport. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds like we got it under control.
School choice week.
Thank you. Don't run away. All right. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to mail this. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And look again. The schools too. Yes. Yeah, we're in. Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. All right, and to wrap this up, we've got some people we want to give recognition to. The first one is to Alice White in recognition of her personal commitment and dedication to the City of Northport while serving on the Citizens Tax Oversight Committee from December 11th, 18 to December 3rd of 19. She's now going to serve on the Beautification and Tree Committee. And we have one for Joseph Hafner in recognition of his personal commitment and dedication to the City of Northport while serving on the Community Economic Development Advisory Board from July 24th, 18 to November 26th, 19. Thank you, sir. And our final one is to Gail Miller in recognition of her personal commitment and dedication to the City of Northport while serving on the Beautification and Tree Scenic Highway Committee from November 28th, 11, wow, through December 14th of 2019, 8 years there. Thank you very much, Gail.
We'll make sure these recognitions get mailed out and the one for school choice too. So it is now, yeah, we just go back up.
Thank you.
Before you close, I got one statement.
All righty, before we finish up, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor, you said you had something else?
Yeah, I spoke, we just were handed a letter from Mr. Hale, and I spoke with him in between the two meetings. The creek is not part of Northport property, it's actually county. So as you read through that material, just wanted you to be alert, that is county property, not Northport. So,
Are you talking about Myakkahatchee Creek?
No. The Warm Meadow Springs Creek and the Salt Creek.
Oh, Yes,
That goes,
okay.
that flows out of Warren Meadow Springs.
Thank you. And Commissioner Emmerich?
Yeah, I talked with the same individual in between meetings and pointed the same thing out to him, and we discussed that as well. It was a county.
It was labeled that way, but oversight.
Right,
was
it looked like
thinking-
we are like in a partnership with some of the stuff going on, but it's actually county-run.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anything else for anybody? All right, it is 4:11 and we are officially adjourned.